Well, that's the issue we're taking a look at this morning, and joining us to do so is Professor Wunmi Iledare, who is a Professor Emeritus, Energy Studies at the Louisiana State University, and also the Executive Director of the Emmanuel Eboga Foundation here in Abuja. It's good to see you, Prof. Thank you so much for coming on our program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm sure that watching this, I do not know what you made of it initially, but were you scandalized in any way?
No. I mean, I've spoken about this, and I'm not here to say the National Assembly should not do their duty. No. I think they have the right to demand for transparency, and they have the right to ask for questions, to ask questions that they need clarification and for public to be educated. But the only thing I don't like is sensationalism. I think they are sensationalizing the news, listening to what they are saying, instead of asking questions. And if you like, I'll make an opening remark.
By all means.
Yes. I think we have to really understand the issue at stake. And it's an audit report.
Indeed.
Yes, and the audit report has a final remark in which they identify liabilities and they identify assets. Financial accounting does not support adding the two of them together. 103
and 107.
107. They are not additive. That's just the truth of the matter. In financial,
so you're wondering how it came about this 210?
Yeah. Well, the only way you can come about 210
is to add it.
103 to plus 107. Now, you can look at the difference, which then becomes the net asset for NNPC. And then you can ask the NNPC Limited to break down the liabilities. It is account receivable, account payable. Account receivable is an asset. Account payable is we are owing someone. Someone is owing you. So you cannot add the two of them together because they are two different sides of the ledger account. Second, it is okay to say, okay, what are these liabilities? And then you can break it down to who are you going to pay? What did you buy from them? Those are the questions they should be asking, not emphasizing 210 and making it like a sensational news. Then, okay, you say, okay, are there legacy debts there which the government of Nigeria is actually owing NNPC, going back to subsidies that the federal government never reimbursed them? Are there some interagency issues that require to be broken down? I mean, those are legitimate questions. And then when you say, oh, who are the people owing NNPC? What did you sell to them? Who are you owing? What did you buy from them? Rather than talking about 210.
Yeah, but one would think, because just observing, as an observer and looking at what it is, and not getting carried away with what the National Assembly has been asking for, this is very simple and very upfront. Why would you think that Mr. Ojulari, who has just been recently appointed, wouldn't even want to at least make this initial clarification to say, I think that there's been, there's been a misunderstanding, and that we cannot even lump the two of them together. This initial breakdown, and then perhaps offering more clarity on what the liabilities will be much later, rather than, it was him chickening out and saying, look, I've only just been appointed. Can you give me extra time? I'll come forth and I'll answer you.
Well, I wouldn't. I'm not a Ojulari defender, by the way, even though he's my friend. And I'm not here to defend NNPC. Neither am I here to crucify the National Assembly. They are doing their job. But if you are working in the public space and you are dealing with Nigerian politicians, you have to be careful what you say. And I've even advised him over and over again, even though in the public space, the less you talk to the press, the better. Because your statement will be taken out of context. Even look at him asking for additional day. People are using that as being defensive.
But there's a way it comes off.
Well, again, this guy is not a politician. This guy is not a politician. And it's because, in my opinion, let's look at the issues. All right, let's look at you lumping 2017 to 2023. So people are picking liabilities in each of the year, lumping them together, and picking assets all over the year, lumping together. The way the accounting system works, a year is like an exponential function. It's not remembered. It's the last line that is taken to the other year. And so I expect the National Assembly to understand the implication of sensationalism when you have a new company that is just becoming a public enterprise. You are moving from being publicly owned to being privately owned. And you have to be careful when now you are looking at what was done when this NNPC was old NNPC, which is 2017 to 2023. No, the behavior of 2017 to 2021 is different when NNPC became NNPC Limited. So you have to not lump apple and oranges. And I don't want to sit here with you as if I'm being defensive of NNPC Limited. No, I'm defending the oil and gas industry in Nigeria. And this sensational approach to bringing a very respectable sector of the Nigerian economy into the dustbin, I can't stand it. But I'm not saying NNPC should not be interviewed. But you can't lump 2017 to 2030. You need to break it down. What happened since they became a liability company is different from what happened when they were more or less a public agency.
Well, we do know that, yes, NNPC has tried to become in fact, it says it has become a public liability company. It's not limited, it's NNPC Limited. But, you know, it will take more than rebranding and, you know, changing logo for a lot of Nigerians to be able to see. There have been complaints as to where is it listed? Oh, you know, who are the shareholders in NNPC? NNPC, yes, I remember under Mr. Melik here, he used to say that, you know, the shares were owned by Mofi, you know, which is under the Ministry of Finance. There have been calls for more transparency. For those who look from the outside inside, they say, look, this company is neither a butterfly nor a bird. We're not sure whether it is now a fully limited liability company or whether it looks like it's a morph between the two. So is it really fair for those who still hold it in suspicion, who are still not clear on how it is operating, to have the reservations that they have about it?
No, you are very correct. I mean, I'm not saying that, but Nigerian public, it's a lot easier to believe a lie than the truth. Even truth at times is very subjective. Facts is the only thing you can hold on to. And the fact today, from August 2021, is that NNPC is registered with KAMA. And that's the beginning of the process. The second thing is that there are shareholders for NNPC. Ministry of Petroleum, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, 50%. Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated, 50%. And there are procedures for them to sell the shares as time comes on. Yes, listen, the process is what matters. If you look at the scripture, when you say you want to know God's purpose begins with the process. And that's what you have with the NNPC. You cannot translate from being an agency of the federal government or a cash cow of the federal government since 1977. 1977 to 2021 is how many years? And all of a sudden, in 4 years, you want to become like Shell. It's a process. But if you continue this type of, I'm sure you remember the 28 billion saga with National Assembly. And I'm sure also you remember the probe about 16 billion with NEPA or whatever they call it. The sensationalism is not the way to make NNPC Limited become like Saudi Aramco or Total or Shell. And so it is even the political system that is making NNPC Limited to evolve. So what I'm saying is not to say National Assembly should not do their job, but they need to get technical experts to advise them, even with the type of questions they will ask. even as a professor emeritus, from last night when Patrick called me and now, I had to do due diligence to really find out what is happening. So I'm not just to come here and speak out of something. Let the board of directors of NNPC function in an apolitical way. You can't blame Bayo for asking to give him time. Because you are lumping what happens when NNPC was a wholly owned, operated, and governed NNPC Limited. So when NNPC became even more transparent, even though not perfect, but it's not like what it used to be.
So for Nigerians, because the reason we've done this, the reason we're having this conversation with you is to clarify or to enlighten Nigerians. Okay. When Mr. Ojulari appears in 3 weeks, as is expected to, what would you be expecting him to come up with that will engender trust? Because a lot of Nigerians are running away with this 210 trillion naira unaccounted for. And of course, they will still have that eye that they used to look at NNPC in the past, the cash cow of the government. That will take a while for a lot of Nigerians to come to terms with that. That is no longer what it is. So for you, what would you be saying he needs to come up with to the National Assembly to make a great case to say, look, we're still in the process of transitioning, or this is where we are and we have nothing to hide?
All right. Let me ask some questions and give you answers. Is NNPC, has NNPC embezzled 210 trillion naira? The answer is no. Because you cannot add liability to assets together. So the public must not allow politicians to sensationalize them. The second question, so where does that number come from? It is likely from adding liability to asset. And it is likely because they are lumping every liability from 2017, every year, they add them together, and every year they added asset together. That's my opinion. 3 questions. Does this mean there is no cause for concern? No. Because National Assembly can say, okay, let's look at your liability. Are they genuine? But that's the purpose of the auditors. You need to read the auditor's report completely and not necessarily only the management, only their concern to the management with respect to what they need to do. 4th question, what is your advice to the public? Let's separate financial literacy from political narratives. Yes, financial literacy is not the same thing as political narratives. And I stand to say factually, at my age, you may have a political power. You must understand that Nigeria is bigger than anybody else. Let NNPC Limited begin to move to become a liability company that they are. And I encourage the management team. If the place remains political, leave. You don't need NNPC anymore. You've accomplished as a professional. Why are you going to be covering up for political stupidity? Tell it as it is. And the public will then begin to understand. It is a lot easier to believe a lie than to understand facts.
Just one little thing. Let us also add this controversy with the refineries, which is another area. For years we were told, oh, the Port Harcourt refinery is nearly on stream. It has come on stream. It's showing blue flame. It's not showing blue. All manner of things. And right now it's unclear what it is, what the state of the current refinery is. As a matter of fact, for Warri, I think the management were recently fired. All of these narratives certainly do not help the, the credibility of NNPC, does it?
I understand, and you and I, we had the conversation earlier. Optics matter. What the public perceive is important. And yes, the refinery issue is worth debating. Neither am I going to stand there and defend indefensible. But at the same time, I look at the refineries in Nigeria. as an asset for a liability company. And the public cannot decide what to do with it. That's why you have board of directors who will look at their portfolio of assets and decide to rank them, finding out which one to dispose of. You cannot govern an institution from the outside. But having said that, we made a lot of mistakes as a nation. And if you like, you can combine all my conversation about the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, beginning with subsidy. It took too long. Beginning with selling crude in Naira to Dangote, and so on and so forth. Let the board of directors look at the assets with respect to NNPC refineries and decide what they want to do with it. You've already delegated the authority to them. You cannot be questioning them. And of course, the oil and gas sector needs a flag bearer. The oil and gas sector is as important as the financial sector. Nigeria tends to pay too much attention to things that do not necessarily add to the economic growth of the nation. The financial sector is an instrument. It's an instrument.
What is it supporting? That's the question.
Exactly, yes. Whereas the oil and gas sector can have a multiplier effect, more so now that we are paying attention to the midstream and downstream. Honestly, the refineries are being evaluated. And I want to believe that if they remain apolitical, and that's my concern, you cannot say because a politician appointed you, you have to be bending to his will. You don't need the job. The reason why you take the job is not the reward of the office, but the service. If you think that the refineries are no good, dispose of them. But my dear, that's what they thought of the petrochemical in Indorama, that is sold to Indorama. What is it doing today? It's contributing value. Who are the people managing it? Are they not Nigerian professionals? And that's what I'm hoping that NNPC Limited will begin to look at. Sensationalism, and you are joining them, it's not going to help you to get out of the political arena. Well, yes, we made mistakes with some of the pronouncements because people tend to say things to keep their job instead of knowing when to resign. And I've been in that position. When the place is not, I put my letter and leave.
I wish we had a little more time.
I know.
But we're out of time.
Well,
we have to thank you so much for coming on the program.
It's always a pleasure.
Wumi Iledare is Professor Emeritus, Energy Studies at the Louisiana State University and also the Executive Director of the Emmanuel Eboga Foundation. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Anytime.